For 24 years now, I've been really interested in how to support communities, universities, businesses, boardrooms, teams to collaborate more effectively. And the driver for me has been waste. So I saw, before I got into this work, I saw things where somebody was command and control. I'm right, you do as I tell you. I'm the expert. I'll tell you what you need to do. And that can be effective. However, what it leads to is passivity in the groups. What it can lead to is resentment because somebody has a good idea, but there's no space for it. And it can lead to resentment because there's a lack of freedom. Like I've got my own ideas or I'm the expert, but there's no room for me to contribute. And I was looking for something that allowed a group to work together and to get the most out of the diversity of thinking experience in that group, essentially to create a network of attention. And I'm not the only one. There's lots of people are trying to move away from this way of working and move towards a more networked, collaborative, emergent, iterative process. And fundamentally underneath this, I use clean questions in systemic modeling. And a clean question is any question that has no constraints in it. So for example, if somebody says, when I'm decision making, I dive straight into the water and I work stuff out once I'm in there. Those are the words that you've got to work with. I dive straight into the water. So what kind of dive would be a clean question? When you dive straight into the water, what happens just before you dive? Or what happens next? Those are clean questions. Now, what might be happening in a small group as they listen to this is there might be somebody else in the group who says, well, when I'm making decisions, I like to research widely. I like to make two lists, one of pros, one of cons. I like to balance those two out. I like to do projections into the future. And I need to get all of that done before I move. And as that person's listened to the person who dives in, under normal circumstances, under non-clean circumstances, they might be making assumptions. They might be prematurely evaluating and going, oh, that's not the best way to make decisions. But with a clean question, they go, what kind of dive? What happens just before? And when the diving person listens to them, they'll say, when you're balancing out the list, anything else about your balancing? And how many pros and cons do you need before you can make a decision? So the clean questions accept and extend where the people are without constraining them. And so then it got me thinking, why are they so important to this work? And it's to do with this safety, belonging, and freedom. It's to do with the things that when I'm not normally brought in for high-performing teams that want to improve, I'm normally brought in to solve major problems. But major problems in teams, families, groups, either somebody doesn't feel safe. It's not fair. What's said is not what's done. They feel threatened. People get angry when they don't do things correctly. Or they don't belong. They don't fit in. Their way of working isn't right. They have to mask in order to fit into that group. And that's a huge strain. Or they're not free. They've got ideas. They want to do things their way. They want to utilize what they know on the ground to make decisions. And a clean question in and of itself is a microcosm of safety, belonging, and freedom. When you ask a clean question, if I have to ask, maybe I'm the list maker, and I have to ask the diver inner, I'm not allowed to go, yeah, well, there might be rocks there, you're going to hit them. I'm not allowed to do that. They are constraints that enable me to keep myself safe from my own assumptions and to keep you safe from my assumptions. So in that moment of me asking it, I'll have my assumptions, I need to find some way of managing them and ask you a clean question. Now, when you dive into the water, what kind of water is it? What happens just before you dive in? Before you dive in the water, when you know that you'll be fine swimming, you'll find your way once you're in there, what lets you know that you'll find your way once you're in there? These questions keep you safe from me and me safe from me. So in that moment, there's safety between us. Similarly, they create belonging, because as I listen to you, I use your words, I'm attending to you. And there's something in that says you matter, you belong, your contribution is worth my time and attention. whether that's in a meeting, in a family discussion. And so there's a little bit of belonging. And when that's reciprocal, when you then ask me about my lists, does the list have a size or a shape? And when you're doing the research and it's pros and cons and you're balancing it, what kind of balance is the balance before you make that decision? I matter. I belong here enough for you to pay attention to me. And although clean questions are very constraining for the questioner, they're incredibly freeing for the thinking of the group. Because when they're asked, anyone can answer whatever occurs to them. They're not filtering for what's the normal way of thinking in this group. In the moment a clean question's asked, they say, give me your immediate response and let's build on it. And yes, you might change your mind as we go along, but all of your answers and your thoughts are going to be welcome in the first instance. So I realized that that's what's going on, is that the clean questions are micro interactions, like the antidote to microaggressions, and that they build up over time and they inspire capability. So when groups become proficient at this, but also proficient at, at the clean questions and also at coding, oh, this is a problem. Right now we're asking clean questions about a problem. If you want to switch to outcome, you can say, so what would you like to have happen? Now we're building up a desired outcome. You can say, what have you already got going for you? What have you already done? Now we're building up resources. There's a little bit of coding that you're teaching groups as well. When are we talking in evidence? When are we talking in inference? But essentially what you're doing is a group becomes inspired to be capable to make the most of this group of people in this room for this purpose at this time. And that's what we're up to. So safety, belonging, and freedom inspires capability, all with a few clean questions.